Welcome to BA Chats. So happy you're listening to us. I'm your host, Kevin Kuntz. Right next to me is the lovely, beautiful, gorgeous, talented.
You left out skinny.
And did I say perfect?
No,
Rachel.
No, but
Kuntz.
you can, and I don't mind. I'm his
Oh,
wife, Rachel.
skinny.
I'm Rachel. Thank you for listening to BA Chats. We love you guys. We're so happy to have you. We always want to remind you, BA Chats is about the testimony. We love the testimonies of what Jesus is doing, and the word testimony actually means
Do it again, God.
Do it again, God.
We're going to do it in unison.
Okay, let's try it. Ready?
Do it again,
God.
God.
See, your voice is so much louder you can't hear mine. Do it again, but then you got to be quieter. Scoot back. Ready? 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 Do it again, God. There you go. That's what the testimony means. Do it again, God. So when you hear about the marvelous things that Jesus is doing through people, it is appropriate that your heart jump, that your heart leap, that your heart be on fire, and it is very appropriate that it comes up and out of you. Do that in me. Father, do something through me. Do anything through me. I want you. And so that's why we share testimonies.
That's numero uno. Numero dos. Can you tell we're from Texas? The border, kind of. Anyway, so dose.
That's right, dose.
That's
in the Longhorn side, dose.
Dose reason that we are here is because here at Bethel Atlanta, in our body of believers, we have got fantastic people. I look out across our congregation all the time, and I'm like, oh, look, there's another diamond. And I'm not talking like diamond in the rough. I'm talking, look, there's another diamond.
Which God loves diamonds in the rough, too. Yeah. But still, I hear you, Coons.
You know what I mean. There's diamonds. There's just gold in our people. And there are stories that are beautiful. There's testimonial stories. And there is just so much, there's so much of the Spirit of God in one place, and it's in people. It's not like he's just here to fall on us. He's here in us. And that's what we like to do. We like to find the Spirit of the Lord in people and say, hey, come and share your story of God's goodness. So that's what we want to do. We want to talk about some awesome people tonight, and I'll let you introduce them.
Oh, my goodness, and it's so easy to talk about. These people that I'm about to introduce, true story, you guys probably don't know this. You have been the most suggested guests that we have ever had, meaning when we're like, hey, who should we have on BA Chats? People say this, Joseph and Martha Blanchard. Have you asked them? I want to hear their story. So Joseph, Martha, welcome.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much.
We're so glad you're here. Did you know that you are the most suggested guest so far?
No idea.
You're very popular. Wow.
So popular. Wow.
So exciting.
Well, you guys, we can't wait to share your story with our community and the globe. I know it's an exciting, beautiful story. So let's just go ahead. We're going to jump in. Joseph and Martha, how did you hear about Bethel? And then what brought you to us? Because I know you are not from here.
Joseph.
You, Joseph.
Go.
You're
Thank
getting it.
you.
Your wife is pointing to you.
Alrighty. We were living, I'll give a very truncated version, but we were living in Montgomery, Alabama, which is a wonderful, beautiful city.
Joseph, you got to go back one more state before you're in Alabama.
How far back do you want me to go?
Texas.
The stars at night are big and bright, deep in the heart of Texas.
We share this. Okay, now you're going to Alabama. I just wanted to hear the happy news that we're all from Texas. All right, go ahead.
I'm not just from Texas. I'm a native Texan, and I was born in Snyder.
I love it. This Midland girl loves that you're from Snyder. Oh, that's a big deal. So you guys are in Alabama, in Montgomery.
So we're in Montgomery, Alabama, which is the capital of Alabama.
Okay.
And we were in a church plant opportunity, which was awesome, and also doing ministry on the school campuses. And I guess the word is restlessness.
Okay.
I just felt a restlessness in my spirit and began to look around, I guess just on the internet. And out of the blue, I found Bethel Worship.
Are you serious? You Googled us and found us?
I don't know the real story. I'm sorry.
It's been a minute. Don't you apologize.
But somehow I started watching Bethel Redding on the channel on their website, and I saw the worship, and then I listened to the messages. And in Bethel Redding, I just really resonated with my spirit. I was like, wow, these guys are interesting folks. And so this went on for about 8 months or so. And I'm not sure, did I tell you about Bethel Redding?
I don't remember.
We were busy, so we had 2 homeschooled children that we were raising, and that kept us busy. But yeah, it was just little by little, it just began to grow in me. And I don't know how transitions always, how to explain it exactly, but it was just like God began to move in my heart. Should we maybe move to Bethel Redding? Just in the back of my head, it wasn't like I was thinking about it all the time, but as I listened to the messages, saw the results, and just the power of God moving in so many lives, I was like, this might be a possibility. But in the midst of it, I thought, wow, the cost. How do we move to Bethel Redding? It's a long trip. That's in California, which, from the Texas perspective,
Texas, Alabama to California.
a
Woo!
little different. So I was like, I'm not sure about that. But then I checked and I thought, well, maybe Atlanta, there might be, I don't know why. I thought maybe it's in Atlanta. And sure enough, we checked it out, and there was Bethel, Atlanta on the internet. And so I don't know if did I tell you, Martha, about it at all at that point when I found out about Bethel, Atlanta?
It took a while.
This is my amazing hero wife, Martha Blanchard.
You say that, Joseph. Say that. It's true.
Hero.
No, it's true.
It is true.
Yeah.
We love
He's
you,
a
Marth.
superhero.
You really are.
Superhero. So anyway, pondering things, found out about the church. I thought, okay, God, well, maybe I'll visit. So I got in the car, about a 2-hour drive, showed up at the church. And that very first Sunday, I went down front. And I highly recommend this in terms of people visiting our church. It's a great way to show up and go down front and ask for a prophetic word. And it was a student. I don't think I've even seen him since that time.
Wow.
But really nailed our situation exactly and what I was thinking about, and kind of like the comparison between Montgomery and being here in Atlanta. And it just nailed me. And I was like, wow, God. Maybe you are, because it was very transitional, and it was like, I'm moving anyway. It was like into a great new spot, possible. All these things lined up. I don't want to go into all the details, but it was really powerful. And really, from that point on, it was like, well, I think God, you're calling us here, but then Martha has to go with me. So it's like.
Yes, absolutely.
He would have been pretty lonely.
So I was like, well, how do we put this together? How does this work out? And of all things, it was Blake Healy. He had a message about not worrying about anything.
Blake was teaching that Sunday?
Not that Sunday even.
Okay, so you just heard a message from Blake.
I
'Cause
think
where was this?
I visited a school night.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Gotcha.
And he actually had a prophetic word for me also,
Wow.
I think.
Wow.
It's just kind of crazy. But he said something like, don't worry about anything, just stay in a state of worship.
Wow.
And God will work everything out. And so I just said, okay, well, that sounds pretty easy. But I actually did it. I would just literally worship the Lord, release the situation to God, not worry about Martha, just like, okay, God, if it's going to be you, it's going to work, she's going to want to go. And lo and behold, I started going now and then went more often. And eventually I kind of began to discuss it with Martha. And it seems like you were not resistant. Is that true? Or
Well,
I don't know the
I
backstory
was feeling kind of
completely.
restless in Montgomery as well. So
Oh, okay.
So there's a godly restlessness. It really is like I think it's time to scoot.
Yeah, that seemed to be what was going on, and it was just so easy. And
Wow.
the coolest thing was because I didn't come just for the school. I mean, for the church, I thought I want to go to the school.
So did you guys just you talked about it? You said I'm restless too, and then y'all launched out and came to the school.
Not exactly like that.
There's a little
But yeah,
story
that's a
in
really
between.
good story. Yeah, that works.
It was
works
that
really well.
effortless, wasn't it?
Sure, so effortless. I love change.
I sense some sarcasm in your voice there, Martha.
Maybe.
Well, but y'all came to the school first. How did that happen?
No, we did not.
No, you didn't. Okay.
Actually, I don't think. Will you tell your story?
I don't know. We visited a couple times.
Okay.
Our son, who was just finishing his sophomore year, and he went away to a summer camp, and we were looking for a place to live, and he remembers coming home from the summer camp and like, there's a moving van in my driveway.
Surprise!
We're like, oh yeah, we found a house while you were gone. And he's like, were you going to tell me? We're like, oh well, yeah, well, sure, we were going to take you.
you definitely get to
So
come.
he came to go to the school.
Okay. So did y'all come together that first year, or was it just you, Joseph?
Well, no, we just said it's time to transition.
Great.
And so we went house hunting together, and that was difficult, as you know, when you drive over and you can't find anything. And but in the midst of it, I just kind of kept my heart in the heart of, like Blake told me to,
Wow.
keep worshiping.
Wow.
And so it was not.
That's amazing.
I mean, it just kind of fell into place. And so we, what was interesting, though, is that I don't know if I even brought up the school to Martha.
Well, we came so he could go to the school.
Okay, gotcha.
He wanted to go to the school.
Okay.
And I was like, all right, okay, he's going to the school. And the week before school started, Lindy comes up and she meets me. And I'm like, yeah, my husband moved us here so he could go to the school. And she's like, well, you should go. I'm like, why?
Sure.
He's going to the school. He dragged us here so he could do this, you know. So she said, well, maybe you should just apply. I'm like, ugh, it's too late. It starts next week. She said, just try. So, of course, I applied and was accepted. And I was like, well, okay, I'll just try this school. Let's see what it's like.
For all you listeners, this is Lindy Hale. This is one of our pastors.
The pastor's
founder.
wife comes
Yeah.
up to me and says, just give it a try. So
You did. You
I
tried and you got
applied,
in. Okay.
And I got in.
Okay.
And so I showed up really not knowing anything about
Sure.
Bethel, and they would be talking about Bill, and I'm like, who's Bill? And
Seems like a nice fella.
right, and they showed us
Boy,
some
these
video.
guys
I'm
really
like,
like Bill.
who's the dude on the video? And they're like, his name's Chris Valentin. I'm like, who's he? You know, I
Sure.
didn't know anything.
Okay.
It's so great.
So it was all just a mystery.
What a leap.
Where was the school at this time?
It was at OM.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay, okay,
Yeah.
okay,
Scott
so-
Thompson was the first year director.
Okay. So you did first year together. This
We
is
did
all-
all 3 years together.
Okay.
That's awesome. I didn't know that.
Yeah, we did all 3 years.
And by the end of the third year, did you know who these people were, Martha?
Yes. I'd say within about a year and a half, I figured out who they all were.
Well, how was your experience at Bethel Atlanta School of Supernatural Ministry together?
It was, I mean, literally, it's just, what is a good analogy? I had a friend of mine recently tell me that I'm in a slip and slide period of my life, where that's where I need to be.
Sure.
So it's like a slip and slide, with the suds, and you jump and slide.
Sure.
And it was really, as long as I followed Blake's instructions, I really had a pretty easy time.
Wow.
And in the midst of course, there's always twists and turns. But one thing that happened, I just throw this out to people about following God's will, is when you do, if this is God's will for you to come to the school, and it's a sacrifice, maybe you live in Minnesota, I don't know, but it's amazing how God provides if it really is his heart for you.
Come on.
Wow.
And we had a situation arise, and I'm not going to go into all the details, but it probably increased our income over double.
Wow. Great.
And it was just a gift to
wow.
us.
Great.
So I just, that certainly helps. And it was a little difficult for me because Montgomery was sort of my base of ministry
Okay.
for the last 9 years about. But at the same time, it was just so refreshing to be dunked in this beautiful new culture.
Okay.
And it was a little bit like a washing machine, it's like, oh God, I don't know all the religious stuff that I carried in, but it took a while just to, it took some rotations of that machine to get me just to process things. And, and I think it's a life journey, really of finding that heart of worship from pure motives and just because you love them. And I think I'm still being, it's still a process after
Sure.
9 years, but
Sure.
it was a really kind of an interesting first year because I could see the Lord's kind of going, yeah, you got a lot of stuff to clean out here, bro.
Well, big
Yeah.
question, but
Yeah.
can you guys fill out just shortly, religious, what does that mean? That you had a
So,
lot of religious stuff.
To me, I felt like first year mostly was just hearing someone talk about God in such a different way that I was just like, there's no way that's true.
Wow.
And I would
Yeah.
I was the hand raiser in the class, like, are you really saying that?
Good
And
for
they'd be
you,
like,
Mark.
like, there's no, that, you can't really believe God's good like that.
Wow.
I mean, I just was so skeptical.
Well, and you guys are ministry background,
We were in ministry for 25 years, full-time ministry at this point.
full-time ministry, 25 years.
By the time we showed up here.
You got there
Right.
first year, and this was the environment.
Yes.
Wow.
And so I'm looking at these people going, I've served God with all my heart. I do everything that I know to do. And you guys are actually having fun doing this. I kind of would like to serve that God because the God I've been serving hasn't been a lot of fun.
Boring.
So
No fun.
really all of first year was just like, wait, have I been believing something about God that's not really true?
Wow.
Because what they're talking about sure feels like love. What I've been doing really just felt like duty.
Whoa.
And so even though just serving God and doing what I'm supposed to do with all my heart, it still was just like, because I have to, because I'm a Christian, because I'm in ministry.
Sure.
And then we got to show up and sit in the back and not be in charge of anything and not be leaders over anything and just get to receive and just hear from people and hear what their testimonies were. Even the school talks about prophesying. And we would have like the big prophets come into our church, and they were the people that could prophesy. And we actually had one church where you had to fast and pray for 21 days if you wanted the prophet to come and prophesy over you.
Whoa. What?
And then they brought you up in front, and you kind of knelt down in front of him, and he would prophesy over you. And I was like, I don't want that. You're like, no thanks.
Thanks. I'd rather have a sandwich.
Right. And so I come to this school, and they're like, it's just,
Wow.
prophesying is just like getting a text message from God and then just reading the text message to somebody. I'm like, what? That's all it is? Like, it's just a love note from God, and you get to share it with somebody else.
I have a little explanation. You guys tell me if this would communicate it clearly. It's all the things as Christians that we've believed, but then it's very alive. It's like, oh, this is actually working here. Because I've believed that. Like I've not totally understood, but I've heard that. I've confessed that. I've thought that was awesome. But whoa, this is like coming out of you, and you're vibrant and alive in it. Oh, okay. I need to hang out here a little longer.
I guess in some ways it's like, this is right, this is good, this is God. I love him. I love his word. I memorize his word. I preach his word. We do Bible studies. But this just felt like love.
That's
Not
beautiful,
just
Marth.
right. But
Wow.
does that make sense?
It makes beautiful sense.
And
You're
that's
saying it so
why
well.
first year was so confusing to me, because I was like, was I wrong about that too? Was I wrong about that too? And like all year I was like, drat, I've been so wrong about so many things. And it was kind of frustrating.
Sure.
And then second year I started, kind of putting truths in where there were so many holes, so
Sure.
many lies. And then by third year, I felt like maybe I believed it too, not just them, because I could believe that you could believe it.
Sure.
But it was hard for me to believe that I believed what you believed.
So can I ask you a question, Mark?
Yeah.
What was the first time that you were actually given permission to give a prophetic word? How did that go?
Oh, I don't think we were given permission. We were told to do it. And I'm a rule follower.
You were voluntold.
Permission.
So
I have my air
I'm in
quotes up.
school.
It's like,
I'm
hey,
doing
look.
what I'm supposed to do. I will volunteer, and yes, I will do this because you told me to. So,
Gotcha.
and
How
then,
did it go?
It was okay. I got a lot of preferred like pictures of food. It seemed like because I don't know if I was.
Because you had to
whatever.
fast 21 days before you got a word. Now you're like, oh, my mind's full.
It's like the Lord's like, hey, let me show you my sense of humor.
It
How
was-
about we talk about food?
So-
in your
I will tell you one thing that helped me more than anything else, hands down, in understanding this culture, was when I helped in the pre-K 4-year-old class. So in that pre-K 4-year-old class, during first year, because I'd always work with kids, there was a curriculum where you had to teach the children about the prophetic and teach the children how to like soak in the presence and teach the children about words of knowledge. And so here's this curriculum explaining it in such simple words. And I was like, oh, I get it. I didn't get it at school, but I got it through the teaching the pre-K.
That is beautiful.
Because
preach.
it was
Wow.
it explained it to me in a way that I could explain it to them, and it was simple.
Beautiful.
So it was
Martha.
so helpful to helping the children.
Oh, my goodness. Okay. Joseph, was this your experience too? Are you now you had been listening online, but in Alabama, but were you still having the same experience where you're like, "Whoa, what in the world?" No, you just jumped in. Martha's shaking her head.
We didn't really have the same experience. We had the same experiences, but I don't feel like we experienced those experiences just the same because
Okay.
we're different people.
Great.
There's
Great.
there's 40 people in first year. There's 40 first year
Totally.
experiences,
Which is
really.
beautiful. I love it.
And there's so much freedom to do that
yeah.
in this culture.
Well, what was your experience, Joseph?
I think the washing machine was
Yeah.
I just really it was at times difficult, It was like, what are you trying to do, God? And so, as you've done things and as you all asked before, some of the religious tendencies, it was, kind of from a heart of fear, a fear-based religion, like if I don't do it, then God will not be pleased and then I won't, be successful or, just a lot of weird thinking. And just so the whole approach of the school was kind of upside down. It was like no agenda Christianity. It's like,
Wow.
let's just love the Father and let him do through us what he wants. And that was very difficult for a baby boomer, kind of
Sure.
pull yourself up by your bootstraps, do everything, just kind of that, I don't know how to describe it, but it's like so much self-generated religion. I mean,
There was just a lot of freedom, and freedom is weird if you're not used to it.
No, it totally is. I love this. I think you guys are describing it so
well,
beautifully. Has it been good to make the transition?
It's organized chaos is really what it is.
It's freedom to kind of have a voice and be who you are and love
Yeah.
God the way that you feel like he wants to love you and you want to love him, instead of like, we have a plan and you're going to do it our way.
Wow.
And that's a lot of the churches we experienced, which is the only thing that we knew. We didn't know that there could be just a freedom to just love God the way he wanted you to love him.
Wow.
And that was kind of fun.
Oh my
you know.
goodness, it's beautiful. It's life changing.
I mean, I really
it is
felt like I
life-changing.
loved God deeply.
Well,
and then
I'm
there
sure
was
you
just,
did.
but now there was just some more breadth of loving him, if that makes sense.
It does make sense.
It's beautiful, and of course you loved him the whole time. There's of course
absolutely.
we all love the Lord.
Yeah.
He's easy to love, but boy, you get to where things are in practice and it's powerful, and there's actually things happening, and love is manifesting, and there's freedom and things like that in an environment. It is different and great.
And I think being in full-time ministry at the same time was a little bit different because
Oh, I
you're
bet.
kind of trying to apply new things.
Which tell us, what is this full-time ministry? Are you doing now what you were doing in Alabama?
Yeah.
Okay, what
Yes.
is that, Joseph?
Yeah.
Well, I've been doing it for a long time.
Since 1991.
1991, I was a junior in high school, man.
Roger that. Copy.
So
we
what
have
is
definitely dated ourselves. But, just for years, I guess the simple statement is that it's a church-based, campus-focused youth ministry or youth outreach to school campuses. But being church-based is difficult because churches are they just change youth pastors and
Sure.
everything's always evolving, and pastors.
And
And so
principals and
it's
the
not like you have
teachers,
the set, workers always with you. You recruit, you train, and then they're kind of disappearing at times because the youth
attrition.
pastors leave and pastors change their hearts. But it's just been a really fun way to learn to love the body of Christ, which is, imperfect like me, and attempt to empower the local body to be effective at winning the students to Christ, introducing them into a relationship with Him, and then being discipled and plugged into local churches by getting the youth pastors involved on the school campuses.
Best organization ever. What is the name of this great thing?
CMI, or Crossroads Ministries International, but we actually go by Crossroads. So.
Crossroads.
So one thing that he does really well is he connects churches and community volunteers and people that want to mentor someone on campus and gives them training and a place, a vehicle to be on the campus, like before school or after school, with students in the classrooms, with the teachers, praying for them, praying for the administration,
Awesome.
and just providing training for people that are like, boy, the schools are a mess. I wish I could do something. Oh, well, you can. Come on in.
Great.
And especially in lower socioeconomic schools, they're just like, please, we need help. All the help you can give us, whatever it is.
Best.
Now, he can't be like one church, like, we're just First Baptist. It's very ecumenical, so that there's not any of that, like, well, how come my church can't be on there? Like, everybody. Bring them all. He's had Catholics, Baptists, Methodists,
So
everything.
it's just training people, how do you help the kids, period.
And training the students how to reach their campus, because the students have the right on campus to have a Bible club and a prayer club.
Mm-hmm.
And so he comes in as a guest, as a mentor, a guest of the students.
You
If
know,
that makes sense.
I tell you what, Christians get such a bad rap. I love to speak into this every single chance that I get. But, we're about the only people group on the planet that has hospitals, orphanages. We're just like, where does anybody need help? Where's there been a disaster? Well, here are all the churches. Here are all the Christians just helping out. And so this is another example of Christians. It's this new heart we have in Jesus that you're just drawn to people that need help. And so now this is Christian people. Just where do you need help? How can we serve? And organizing people to get in and just help kids in schools.
Yeah, they had a Bible, like a church Bible study come in one time and clean up the campus, like clean up
It's
the.
beautiful.
You don't see any other people groups
230
doing this.
People from a local church there in Montgomery.
Well, how is it going? I know you've had some wild testimonies just recently, haven't you?
Yeah.
Tell us
Well,
some.
he
us a
has them
couple
all
of
the
them.
time.
Yeah,
Let's hear about Crossroads. What's Jesus doing in Crossroads?
it's just been amazing to watch the growth of my own soul, and then to watch the staffers or the part-time staffers or the volunteers, and to see them growing in kind of this new way. And it's been interesting because a lot of the people working with us are not in the same stream exactly, but we unite around the gospel and a heart for discipleship.
That is awesome.
And so but it's just been cool to see the manifestations of God's love. In this case, we for years were in suburban schools in Dallas, but in this last 12 years, we've been in Montgomery, Alabama, and in the inner city schools. And it has been a real heart opening of mine. I felt a real call back in Texas. I had visions and dreams of reaching either in Africa as a missionary or African Americans. I didn't know which I was called to. And it was just amazing how I had the dreams and visions, and God opened this door to go to Montgomery, Alabama. And
That's significant.
I think, one of my heart cries for the body of Christ is just to get a glimpse of the level of pain in the inner cities, in the African American communities. And I know it's true in any, whether it be Hispanic or, any inner city situation is very difficult. But God has just really opened my heart and given me compassion. We were estimating the other day, just to give these guys just a little bit of a picture. Yeah. Somewhere right now, and if I'm wrong, anybody out there listening, you can correct me via email, please. So I'm not the final word. These are statistics that I've kind of carried with me for years, so they've probably changed some. But 73% of all African American children are born into a single parent household. And in the inner city, I'm estimating probably in the 85% or higher, as we've just done polls in the clubs for years. So that, and then the abortion rate among the African American community is very high, like 33%. But again, in the inner city, might be up to around 50%.
Wow.
And this last statistic, again, I
Wait,
would love to be
33% of abortions.
No, just that.
33% of African
Oh,
Americans.
that's a good question.
Well, even this year,
I think it's just that 33% of all the births, or 33% of all the
Abortions.
African American women
Oh, okay,
that
gotcha.
that are having babies abort them.
Okay,
Does
gotcha.
that make sense?
Yes.
But you've also had things this year, even kids in your club, drive-by shootings, that one girl that got shot back behind the school. There's just
Yeah.
tragic
it's just
things
tough.
like that all the
Tough.
time. These
Okay.
these are 12-year-olds. These are not, adults.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I could go on for hours on this topic
Just with the
because what I've
hardship.
experienced, probably one of the most difficult days of my life was we had a young lady who was, of course, single parent mom. She gave up cheerleading to pursue art, and so she was a leader in our club. And she took care of her 3 little sisters every day after school. So she was just the ideal, loving, smart, student there in the school. And she got not a brand new iPhone, but a very nice iPhone. She brought it to school. A kid came in from an alternative school and saw it, and he said, I want that. I'm going to get that phone from you. And of course, she just said, no, you're not. It's an obvious response. Right. And she was waiting for her ride after school in the church right next to the middle school, in front of the church. And this young man came up and just said, give me your phone. And she says, no, I'm not going to give it to you. And he pulled out a gun and shot her and killed her on the spot.
Oh no!
And
so this is what you guys work with
all the time.
It's just a lot of chaos in this type
I'm sorry.
opportunity. And there's incredible people. I'm not trying to give it a picture of all everything's
No,
terrible.
but this is
But on the other hand, too, he's always coming home and saying, you should have seen this healing. This kid came in, he was limping. The kids gathered around and prayed for him, and he had no more pain.
Wow.
This other kid had his elbow was hurting or something. They prayed for his elbow, and then I think he asked you, could you pray for all these voices I hear inside my head?
Wow.
And so he prayed, and he came back the next week and said, I only hear one voice now. Can we pray for that one?
Wow.
It's just things like that
People
happen
are getting help
every single week. The students are praying over them. The volunteers will pray. It's just constant healings and miracles and
Joseph,
just normal stuff.
I'm sorry about that gal. I bless. I bet that was super hard. And
it was very, very tragic, and it's a depiction of the pain level in that community. And I throw that out to the listeners when whatever they hear about or from the African American community, that they would ask the Lord to give them a heart of wisdom and revelation, that their eyes would be opened by God for them to understand the whole history of the African American people and the level of pain that they carry. And instead of maybe judging or looking strangely at or thinking they're extreme in their expressions, whatever it might be, that we would run to help them in this stage, because there's really kind of a self-destruction going on. And I think, the folks that can help, it's just an incredible opportunity. I think God's heart is so wanting us to get involved. So,
Well, and you have. So thank you for Crossroads. Tell us more of what the Lord is doing. I know recently, you had a huge testimony. I know Pastor Steve was wanting to.
yeah, it's again, there's so many in the last few years. It's just, I could go on all day. But recently, this is really encouraging to me. We've actually, I would give a lot of credit to a part-time staff guy. He's just a real consecrated servant of Christ and pursues the presence of God and loves the Word, and just has a heart to mentor deeply or disciple these young people. And so we've, through his weekly work, and then we took him to a special event called The Send, and that was down in Orlando, Florida. Mm-hmm. We took 9 students, and every single one of them was so rocked by God. One of the students, I told, Prince, I said, maybe we should not bring this fellow along. But Prince, his name's Prince, and he's a part-time staff guy. But he just said, I really feel like God wants him to go. And I was like, okay. So he bring him and these other, but I can go all day just about that one event. I'll just kind of tie this into the recent testimony.
Okay.
But this one, student we decided to bring ended up having incredible encounters with God. In fact, it began about noon or 11 o'clock. Some guy out of the blue came up to him and prophesied out of the blue 7 things about his life that were so spot on. He absolutely knew that God knew him and knew exactly what he was going through. And it just opened his heart to God. And the result was that he spent the last hour that night just on the ground weeping under the power of God.
And just being healed, I'm sure.
Being not just healed, he actually got saved.
Oh, wow.
Born again.
Amazing.
And he's just been growing in the Word and studying the Word. And these other students that went, one little girl, incredible abuse background. And she got a lot of inner healing through the day.
Great.
But then she had been cutting herself for months, and so had scars on her arm and her legs. And by the end of that night, all of her scars had disappeared.
What?
That is awesome.
Oh, great. Great.
But
So awesome.
this is what's even more amazing. Because of this part-time staff guy pouring his life into these students, two of them I mentioned. But recently we had an end-of-the-year outreach, and the part-time guy couldn't be there, so I was running the outreaches. And I told the students that had been to this Send, I said, you guys are going to run the outreach. And you have to understand, but
it's on campus before school.
Yeah,
right?
on campus club. According to the Equal Access Amendment is the legal reason we can be on the campuses. But anyway, so these students decided to do it. But the 2 guys who I thought, one's a drum major, assistant drum major, the other one's this young man who's a very accomplished, musician and drummer, and all 3 are good leaders. But the one that I didn't think would step up was this young lady. And for some reason, because she's been such a tough background and gone through so much, I didn't think she probably won't, say much, or. So when I walked in that morning, though, and the first one to show up with her boombox and everything was this young lady, and she was just on fire for Christ.
Wow.
And she was so cool in the way that she just took over.
Wow.
And so instead of the guys leading out, it was this young girl that had come through such a tough background, suicidal background, depression, cutting. And here she is, healed by the grace of God.
Wow.
And just bearing her heart with the students that came out for this, end of the year party. And then she was kind of telling the guys what to do. It's great.
Wow.
Okay, you share your story, and you share your story. And it was really powerful. But the most gripping thing was when she said, and guys, and by the end of the night, my scars on my arms had disappeared.
Oh my God.
And so she's, showing them the scarless arms. And of course, they're kind of far away from her. So I was in the back, and I have a big mouth by nature. So I just said, and I could tell, these are tough inner city kids. They've seen a lot. It takes a lot to grip them, And I was like, guys, how many of y'all really believe that happened? And they're kind of rolling their eyes, and looking around. And so it's so powerful. It moved my heart. I literally wept. I didn't weep, but I couldn't talk on the phone, sharing with a friend about what happened. She's up front in all of them, and she runs to the front and just sticks her forearms in their faces one by one.
Wow.
Just like, look, it's real. It's real. Jesus has healed me. Jesus has healed me.
Good grief.
And it was just like, whoa.
Good
Here's
grief.
this girl that from this crushed background, just like a roaring lioness, full
Wow.
of the love of God, full of the power of God. And I speak out, kind of a little word to anyone out there. You could not have had a tougher background than this girl. And yet in the midst of it, she is now day in and day out a surrendered disciple of Christ that is living in joy and peace and in righteousness.
That's because he loved her. Good grief.
I know, but it's just to get the mind renewed to that
Wow.
level is so hard. But she did it, and the last thing though that challenged me, I was like, okay, now she'll hand it over, and the guys will share the gospel with everybody, But no, she just took over. She's like, and guys, the same Jesus, he wants to know you. You need to open your hearts. Right now, we're going to pray a prayer.
It's beautiful.
And you need to follow me and ask Christ into your life. And so they just bowed their heads, and you could see that it was real. They were no longer, she said, you need to stand up. So she's like,
Beautiful.
so here's this little mouse turning into this little lioness. And through this process of events and discipleship, and this part-time staff guy's now wife, but fiance at the time had mentored her every week also. And I was just like, oh my goodness, Lord, you're so good that you're raising up disciples that within only about 3 or 4 months.
Yeah.
I mean, we've been working for 2.5 years, but the real transformation has happened in the last 4 months. So when I think about America, I think about the problems out there. Look at the transformative process that can happen if we're all in. Just to loving God with all of our hearts and just obeying Him and mentoring and discipling. Who knows? Who's out there? So,
Wow. Who knows how good it can get?
yeah, this revolution is just getting started.
Wow.
Among these students, so it's cool.
Wow.
You have a tendency to have your mind renewed when you see scars leave your arm.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
It's not from cramming the word. You could, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, wow, I just experienced His
Yeah.
goodness.
Yeah.
I think my mind can change.
Well, what
That's
does Bill
beautiful.
Johnson say? A man with an experience is not at the mercy of a man. Wait, what is it? I'm messing it up. A man, what is it? You guys help me.
With an experience?
A man with an experience is not at the mercy to a man with a thought. Oh, okay. You guys haven't heard him say that?
I've heard him say it.
Okay, he
But
says it so beautifully.
just gonna-
Not at all like I am saying it.
We're just leaving you hanging out to dry. We'll let you butcher it. We're just going to be real quiet.
This is the gist. This is the gist. Somebody who just says it is different than somebody who has an experience and their
That's
scars are gone.
Truth.
Say that, Coons.
True.
Wow.
But let me just say this: without the consecrated mentors that were there week in and week out, allowing them to study the Word and see how cool it is to understand the Word, that along with the encounter, you've
sure.
got to have both.
Yeah.
And so
That's helpful, Joseph.
It's like with Jesus walk away for half a year and come back to the disciples. They'd be out fishing and doing sheep,
Sure,
They
sure.
needed him to pour into them. So it's just that
That's so
it's a
great.
combination.
That's so great. It is.
Beautiful. Just beautiful. Crossroads. How could people learn more about Crossroads?
Got a website,
Question.
There you go. Give us that
We've
website.
got a
crossroadsyouth.org.
crossroadsyouth.org, and we have
All
some
lowercase,
YouTube videos on a
crossroadsyouth.org.
YouTube
Okay.
channel.
And there's training there, there's information there, there's links, and we got some video training, right? There's manuals like how to reach your campus kind of things.
Wow.
Yeah, if you would like to start
Yeah,
something.
manuals for the students,
Oh.
manuals for the volunteers, manuals for youth pastors.
So Crossroads could be anywhere.
Anywhere.
So like if somebody's
Right.
listening in Missouri,
They
there
just
could be a Crossroads
can
there.
do the same exact thing anywhere.
Okay.
That's amazing.
Okay, so
And
if
it's student-led, student-directed, but without those mentors and the volunteers in the community, volunteers from churches, it's hard for the students to feel like, they can do it. But
Right.
even though they can.
Okay, so
Right.
churches, if you're listening and you have a heart for the kids, who doesn't? Everybody
Right.
loves the kid. We all need to love the kids in our community. This is possible for a Crossroads in your area. So again, it would be crossroadsyouth.org.
Youth.org.
Crossroadsyouth.org. Okay, great. Beautiful, you guys.
I did want to say this real quickly. I just wanted to thank God for Bethel and Atlanta, the church and the school, and because who I am has really come out of the school
Wow.
and the church. And I also wanted to give a shout out to the youth pastors. Of course, now they're amazing. But back in the day when we brought our son over from Montgomery, it was a tough transition.
Sure.
And he was actually in the middle. I think, anytime you're in junior high school, going into high school, that's tough.
A junior in high school.
But
Is this Daniel?
Daniel, he was a junior in high school when we.
We love Daniel.
Wonder boy, wonder boy.
He's the Wonder Boy.
well, we just wanted to say that I really sense that if we hadn't have moved, it would have been much more difficult for Daniel.
Okay.
And I really feel like the redemption happened in our marriage and in our family,
Oh.
and in a lot of little ways that we can't even put into words fully. But there's just a healing process because of the pursuit of the presence as a family.
Wow.
Family as a body of Christ, but also as individual families. That I think it really saved him.
Well, I
And
think
it's been a real
one,
blessing.
One thing that I think we could take away and kind of impart to others, if you think moving to be near to go to the school or something, and I was thinking, oh, it's going to be bad for my high schooler. He's going to miss out on that. He's going to lose this and that and that. And every single thing that I was worried about, it was an upgrade
Wow.
for him when we got here. And as a mama, you're just like, okay, are we ruining his life in the middle of high school, pulling him out of everything he knows?
Sure.
But I can't tell you one thing that wasn't an upgrade in my mind for what he wanted and where he was going. It was amazing.
So did you just say that God sees everything and will multiply it inside of obedience?
Absolutely.
That when he's leading us and it looks real scary, we can be confident he's leading us into something even better.
And not only that, if you don't even know he's leading you, sometimes he is.
Wow, that's
And
helpful.
he's out for your good, even if you don't know how good that good is going to be. Sometimes it's a better good than you ever imagined it could be.
I mean, it's gooder.
It's a gooder goodness.
I
For
personally
all.
think that that's a real word. Gooder.
Did you just say that, like, if it were, if we're thinking good, whatever the Lord's thinking is 10 times that, 20 times
Absolutely.
that, 30 times that, and that we
Absolutely.
can just trust him? Okay.
Yeah, and for our children, it's not just for us.
Martha, speak into that because you're such a gifted mom. All
Yes, you
of the
are.
moms look to you to mom.
Wow.
Oh, yeah, we love you. We watch, man. We younger moms are like, what did Martha do?
WWMD.
Yeah. What would Martha do?
Totally. I'll have the bracelets for all of us. So
true.
speak into that, just about trusting the Lord with your kids.
Yeah.
I don't like to give advice anymore.
Okay.
I just know that the Lord's going to lead you because everybody's child is different.
Wow.
And you can't always see what God's doing in their life, but you can hear God, and God sometimes will say, just leave it be,
Sure.
and just pray, because I don't think there's a one size fits all for any advice.
Wow.
That's helpful.
We should mention
But
here, Martha is a very gifted teacher. You are very gifted with
Oh,
kids.
yeah.
But I
Very.
think the main thing for me going through the school process is just like work on me. Just get my relationship with the Lord healthy, be as healthy as I can be, pursue Him with as much freedom as I can, and those things, they kind of they work out, sort of. I mean, I don't want to say they're, just leave them be, but my goal is to do what I can do about me, being as healthy as I can be, pursuing my relationship with God in a way that's real and true, and getting rid of as many lies as possible and seeking truth, and your kids will see that. They'll see the truth.
Would you say that your breakthrough is your kids' breakthrough?
I see that not just for me, but I've seen that in so many families and so many parents and so many people in the school where their breakthrough happens, and then all of these things that were going on with their extended family, grown-ups and children, just seem to resolve, and there's peace and there's love. It's pretty amazing how
very amazing.
Your personal breakthrough becomes theirs. Yeah, it's cool.
Wow. I have a girlfriend that is a professional counselor and has been for years, and a successful counselor, and it's all gone just fine. But just recently, in the last 3 or 4 or 5 years, she's had such a wild breakthrough with the Lord, just a love encounter, in her words. And she says she's changed her whole counseling regimen to this: you take care of you, and your children they'll be fine.
It's true.
It's like opening doors for them. Like when your heart gets healed, and when you're hearing the Lord, and when you're vibrant and alive and very much in love, doors just start opening for your kids. Stuff starts flying off of them. Healing starts happening on accident.
It's wonderful. Like wakeboarding. Without a boat in front, there's no wake.
Oh, that's helpful,
It's really
Mars.
boring to wakeboard without a boat.
It's called sinking.
I mean, you just go forward, and your wake will make a place for them to do stuff.
Wow, very helpful. Blanchards.
Oh, you guys, thank you for coming.
Guys.
Thanks for
what a
having us. I love
Oh.
talking to you, 'cause even if there's a mic in front of
It was
me.
a great night.
We love talking to you guys, too. You're always more than welcome to come back. Really, I would love to hear updates from Crossroads, beautiful miracles that are going on. Please always share.
Yeah.
You just have an open invitation.
Definitely have to have a part 2.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I know all of you are so curious about this. It is a man with an experience of God is never at the mercy of a man with an argument.
There.
Oh,
Bam.
that's it.
There it is.
That was really close to what you said.
Super not even close.
I'm on Rachel's side.
Oh man.
Oh, it's awesome.
That is so great. So you know what? Let's do this. Let's take just a couple of minutes. I know we love to hear what the Lord is saying when we do these podcasts, and we have just such great prophetic people who get words of knowledge and wisdom in our body, and it's just accessible for everyone. And so I'm going to just give you guys a few minutes to just kind of hear if the Lord, if God's saying anything to you. I want you guys to jump in here, but and while you guys are thinking, I do want to tell people that are listening to the podcast right now that if there's anything that has really ministered to you, or you go, oh my gosh, that met me right where I am, or oh my gosh, I'd love to share this testimony that happened, you can email us at bachats@BethelAtlanta.com. We would love to know your story, and not only know your story, we'd actually like to share your story, because the testimony of Jesus is the spirit of prophecy. When you share your story, Jesus is glorified, and then he gets to multiply it and do it more and more and more. And so please email us, bachats@BethelAtlanta.com. We want to hear what God is doing in your life. Please share with us, and so we can pass those along. Okay, now.
All right, Blanchards.
You guys
What's
got
burning in you?
either a little prophetic word or word of knowledge. Just go for it.
If you're hearing anything.
Yeah.
I'm hearing I think God's heart for the lost, for a nation, and I think it's a call to the body of Christ at this moment. It just says that that an acceptable sacrifice in Psalm 51 is a broken and contrite heart, and I think you could say that in many different ways. I mean, a transparent heart, a real heart, a open heart to the Father and to those around you. And I just think, as I describe the African American situation, well, many of our own family members are struggling and suffering, and I just sense we're in a season where I felt like God was just saying an awakening is coming to America and our world in a way that we've heard about in these circles, but it's very real. But I just felt like him emphasizing like Martha was saying, let's get our hearts, and I'm preaching to myself here, guys, but just a transparent, real, cleansed, loving heart. Let's heal our own hearts that we could touch, the folks around us that need Jesus so badly. Mm-hmm. And so I just feel like it's a call of God right now for us to just go deeper into this love relationship with the Father, where we begin to transform the world around us. So
it's beautiful. Joseph, thanks. Yeah. Thank you. Marcy, hearing anything?
And I feel like there's a lot of people, especially in my generation, that have been looking for more, and they've followed the more. And that's one thing Joseph's done. He's always like, okay, they have more here. Let's go there. They have more, and they're still looking for more. And there's always more, if that makes sense. Yeah. That you keep looking for the more, because there is more of God. There's more of supernatural. There's just more that you can experience of God, and there are people always looking for more. And I think, we're middle-aged, I guess. I don't know what you would call us, but I've talked to so many people our age that are like, yeah, we followed Toronto, and we followed this, and we followed Lakeland, and we just keep wanting more, and they do, and they keep looking, and they find it.
Wow.
So don't give up. There's more and more.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. Can you guys, it's so funny, anytime I hear the word real, and maybe that's just my trigger word, I can just feel the manifested presence of the Lord. Anytime anybody says he's real, I can literally just feel him. And I can feel him even now. I can feel him. Somebody has got a lazy eye, and he is healing your lazy eye. I feel like it is just, I can see it wandering, and the Lord is putting it in its place, and he's holding it in its place. I feel like it's a boy even. And you will not live with that forever, and you need to know that the Lord absolutely cares. I feel like it's hurt you because you thought that he just hasn't noticed or cared. But he notices and he cares, and that's being healed right now, your heart and your eye. Wow. I can see somebody's had to block something down the right side of their neck, and the Lord is opening up. It looks like some sort of a clogged artery down the right side of their neck.
Artery, it's called.
Yeah.
My father had the exact operation.
Okay.
It's a good word.
And the Lord's opening it up, and you're going to be able to avoid an operation.
Wow.
And so we can see that. Father, thanks for that. Couldn't you hear anything?
Yeah, I saw, it's crazy. I saw a little girl, probably maybe 4 or 5, in her bedroom, in her closet, with curly blonde hair, really afraid and scared. And then the Lord jumped me 20 years to you now. And I feel like what the Lord is saying is that when you come against, or when you come into situations that are difficult, that you have a fear that takes you back to that place in your closet when you were little, and God is removing that fear from you today. Amen. And that you are going to walk in freedom, and you will not walk in that fear any longer, and he's going to show you how to walk in freedom and in faith in every situation and in every circumstance that you walk in life. So I just declare faith and freedom over you right now.
I can see there are multiple people that your hearts are burning and that you're called to preach. And so
wow.
I hear the Lord just saying, yes, get out there and preach. Open your mouth. Nobody's going to be changed if you don't open your mouth. So the Lord is faithful. The Lord is faithful. Say what's in your heart. Open up your mouth and say what's in your heart. The Bible says, was it Jeremiah that had fire shut up in his bones? Right. He said, the word of the Lord is like fire shut up in my bones. Yeah. And so it's appropriate that you're just burning. And so open up your mouth. Say something. The Lord, he will show up. He will back you up.
Yes, he will.
And so
we would love to hear from you. If any of those words of knowledge or wisdom resonate with you, please email us bachats@bethelAtlanta.com. We want to know who you are. We want to continue to pray over you, and we want to release your testimony when God does a miracle in your life.
Blanchards, we love you. Thank you again for coming. You guys just make us real rich.
You really make us super rich. So happy to have you. You guys remember that Jesus loves you.
And we love you too.